Welcome to Break Fake Rules. If you've ever questioned why we live by certain rules and wondered what becomes possible when we do things differently, well then this series is for you. Welcome to another exciting edition of Break Fake Rules. We are in North Carolina. Why are we in North Carolina? We are in North Carolina because we are here for the first night of Common Thread, which also aligns with the first time one of our other co-hosts who you have not seen yet is joining us, and that is this person next to me, who you may have seen on Break Fake Rules before, the president and CEO of Marguerite Casey Foundation, Carmen Rojas, who some people call Dr. Carmen Rojas. So I feel a strong obligation to acknowledge that.
Some people do. Some people do.
They should.
Thanks so much for having me. Thanks for being here in North Carolina.
Why are we here, Carmen? What is going on? What is this whole place about? This is the most beautiful set we have ever had.
Oh, I'm so glad. So for the last 4 years, the foundation has been spending time imagining how we can create space for political education and connection. And we've done this through our summer school events, where we'll have a set of organizers and scholars work through big issues. So, for example, in 2024, we did a big one on the Heritage Foundation's, all of their research on Project 2025.
Really?
We had a bunch of organizers come to that. We'll do public book events. So this last year, we had an amazing event with 3 journalists, Nicole Hannah-Jones, M. Gesson, and Pau Ramos, talking about the role of journalists in this moment in the United States. And one of the things that was missing was fun. So we would have these political education events that often created room for insight and connection, but they lack that kind of like the euphoric connection that you
like
get.
The good time we have when we're on here.
Yeah.
Just like
exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
It's missing
like the chitty chat,
Yeah.
the fun.
Yeah.
I think in moments like this where everything feels so dark, to create room for people to learn, but also to create places of light feels really important.
Yeah.
And so Common Thread is the evolution of our political education work. You will have Yasmin Williams, who is an amazing musician, the Kid Mero, who has a huge social media following, helping people understand the world around him. He's a comedian.
And I hear you have an up-and-coming speaker.
And our first speaker is Bernie Sanders, who has this amazing book on oligarchy.
Timely.
It's a very
timely book.
Very timely.
So will you always be in North Carolina?
We will not be. So over the course of this year, we're going to Grand Rapids. We'll be talking about your book, which will be so exciting.
I should finish it. I should get that done. I should really get that done.
We'll be in Kansas City. We'll be in Pittsburgh. So we'll be in a bunch of places. We'll be in Portland, Maine. So this is also our attempt to actually go to where people are. In the past, when we've done public events, we've done them in big cities, primarily New York. And New York doesn't want for public events with amazing speakers.
Right.
And we want to make sure that we can take amazing speakers who are helping people understand the world around them to different places where they don't normally go.
I love it. And you're doing it in partnership with one of our common grantees, if I'm right.
That's right. More Perfect Union events.
Outstanding. Yeah. And More Perfect Union, where can people learn more about More Perfect Union? I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
Where do
go
you
to YouTube.
Yeah.
More Perfect Union is doing really amazing work helping people understand what is happening around them in the economy and in our political situation. So, they've done a lot of really great reporting on data centers.
Yep.
As we know, these tech oligarchs are sucking the water out of our communities, and communities are fighting back. And so they're not just reporting on what is happening and the kind of pickpocketing that billionaires are doing to ordinary people. They're also reporting on the fight that ordinary people are bringing to those folks.
Outstanding. Well, we're delighted to be here, and we're going to be shadowing you in most of these Common Thread events. It's really very exciting. We will have, at times, well, first of all, you'll be our co-host for every one of these.
Can't wait.
Let's move over a little bit to what's happening in the world right now before we bring in our guest, and I'll let you say more about the guest shortly. But we are obviously now kind of in a quieter time. I guess we'll call it a quieter time, not as violent time in the immigration world. But something I really wanted to bring everyone's attention to, because I have found it personally very, very moving, is in a world of rapid social media, you've asked us on LinkedIn to slow down and really take note of the people, the individuals who are being so affected by the disappearances, deportation, and otherwise that's happening in the country. You tell us about them. You tell us about their lives. You tell us about how they were deported or disappeared or whatever it might be, or what they're in the middle of at the moment. It humanizes what can become, and has become for many, just an inhuman thing, which happens when you're dealing with the word mass. Mass anything leads to dehumanizing people who are caught in the mass, whatever it is. It's just so powerful, Carmen. Obviously, I'm not alone in this. There are thousands of people who are recognizing these stories because of what you're bringing. So I just have to tell you, I'm so grateful to you for doing it. And I'd love for you to share a little bit more about it and what made you think of it and why you're doing it.
Yeah. One, thank you.
You bet. I mean, thank you.
Yeah. Two things. I am a doctor.
You are, yeah, that's good.
I spent a good amount of my time in school studying social movements in Latin America. And one of the most powerful social movements is a social movement in Argentina that fought the dictatorship. It's a group of mothers, Las Madres de la Plaza de Mayo, and what they would do is that they would bring up pictures of their kids who were disappeared by the regime in Argentina to the plaza. They would walk around, and it was this notion that not only were they not going to be quiet, but needing to bear witness and see people's faces made it really hard for anybody to be a bystander as the regime was killing, torturing, disappearing people. And over the holidays, I spent a lot of time thinking about the people in my life. And we are living in a moment in which the Supreme Court has essentially made it legal to target Latinos because of how they speak, where they work, what they look like, and what it would mean. What it would mean if it were my niece or nephew, or my brother, or somebody that I loved. I would hate for them not to be a human being.
Right.
And I think when we talk in numbers, it's easy to just get swept up into the scale of it, and it sort of gives us permission to disconnect from the human relation. These people
Absolutely.
all loved people.
Yep.
They've been
and
here
loved
for
by
time,
people.
and they were loved by people,
or are. Hopefully, they're still.
They showed up to their jobs. They
probably
they were kids.
Pay for their families.
Yeah. They are human beings.
Yeah.
And in this moment, I think broadly the conversation around immigration in this country, even before this administration, has been so base about our productive value. What do we do in work? And not about the human experience of people wanting to do anything they can to guarantee that their loved ones, that their children can live a better life that they can. My parents didn't leave their countries because they wanted to be in a place where they didn't have the food that they were used to eating, or they needed to learn a new language as adults. They came here because
also
they
develop a new community, right? A whole new community. They're walking away from everything.
And it was important for me to use this little sliver of the internet that I am on to actually bring more life to these people who are being hurt with our tax dollars, with our resources.
Yeah, and so I just will make a pitch here. If you are not already following Carmen, I'm sure you are on LinkedIn, but if you're not, get on there quickly and take a look. What else is happening these days? What's coming up for you?
Oh gosh, so much is happening. We are at Marguerite Casey Foundation. We are really trying to use the vast amount of our resources to hold the line, to take the risks that our partners, we will hear from Nikki later on, are asking us to take in this moment. The last couple of years as an organization and as a leader, it's been really practicing what it looks like to fight. And I feel like, and our board feels like, and our staff feels like, that we've done everything we can to reinforce our institution and our work so that we can be the most front-footed as we can in the fight that we are in right now. This is a moment, I think, where we need to do the hard work of calling out the villains who are stealing from our neighbors, who are benefiting from these kidnappings, big tech, these contracts that big tech is getting from the administration. Those are come at our expense, right? And
well,
so really,
I want to point out something here. I put this on LinkedIn myself. Not as many people responded as they have to your stuff. But Palantir has become the software of choice for the administration and for a lot of the surveillance and otherwise that's going on. And I am very confident that a number of foundations have made a lot of money on Palantir. And just a reminder to those of you out there, a big fake rule that exists in the sector is that we have to make money to give money, and it's just not true.
That's exactly right.
And a lot of people are making a lot of money on the very tools that are repressing the populations that they're putting 5% of their assets in. But it is such an underexplored, under-discussed area of foundation work as to how much money we are dumping into the very things that are creating the problems that we're putting 5% into.
That's exactly. We call it subsidizing harm and paying for marginal good, playing margins on the good. And we can all divest. It's actually not that difficult. We have divested as an institution from the majority of tech companies that are benefiting.
We were out 5 years ago.
It's not that
couldn't
hard.
Stand it.
It's also that, for us, for organizations, for foundations who are hoping to exist beyond the next decade, it has had, we would have had a lot more money had we been invested in these tech companies, but we haven't we're still big institutions, and I think that one of my insights from our big payout this last year is that we're so nervous about giving away money that we have on the one side, but then we call this moment a crisis, and we call this moment the worst moment ever. And I wonder, really for philanthropy, can you actually say you're not going to give out money in this moment of crisis when our government is kidnapping human beings and having them in detention centers without any due process, when essentially our Constitution has been thrown out the window by this administration, when public goods are being attacked and taken away, making it really hard for people to live. If you think it's that hard of a time, then pay like it. Nobody cares about the statement.
It makes me really wonder, are we capable? Are we qualified? Some of us, most of us, to react in the way we need to react in a time of crisis. And I think we're going to see, we saw the first CEP report a few weeks back about the deep disconnect between what foundations are experiencing and what our grantees are experiencing. I think we're going to see more and more research, and I hope louder voices coming on to say how much. It's that broader question we ask about wealthy people in general, like when is it enough?
Yeah.
When you're a trillionaire, 2 trillionaire, when do you have enough? The same, I think, has to be said of foundations. If you want to be around, and I know we get great spots on plenary speeches and all that because of the money sitting behind us, but how willing are you to let some of that go in order to really help people?
Yeah.
And I feel that these barriers are very significant and very much prevent us from doing the work we really should be doing.
Yeah, the second big lesson from me from this last year is this unspoken rule of large institutions, which is we should not only be able to exist in perpetuity forever, but our endowments should be able to grow infinitely at whatever cost, right? So the unspoken thing, the thing that I kept hearing was not we just need this amount of money to operate and fulfill our commitments. So for us, it led us to have this really wonderful conversation about what is the floor? What is actually the least amount of money that we need to operate?
It's outstanding.
And should we actually imagine giving out more money than that? And then how do we call out or shine a light on the infinite growth model? This belief that, you should have billions of dollars. For some reason, an institution with $10 billion in the bank should exist in our sector. And I just don't know that I buy it anymore. I don't know that I buy it.
I don't think it'll come as a surprise that I no longer buy it. I just don't buy it. And, that is a major reason why I wrote Control, Why Big Giving Falls Short. I didn't come up with the subtitle. I love the subtitle because we are coming up short.
Yeah.
We are coming up short. And the country is saying, please stop coming up short. Yeah. And I think the part that's most frustrating, because what we are talking about here right now are fake rules that we desperately need to break, and society is begging us to do it. Hey, Break Fake Rules listeners, Glenn here. I want to share some news with you. I wrote a book. It's called Control, Why Big Giving Falls Short. You've heard me question philanthropic big giving before, but there's an issue that no one wants to talk about. Philanthropy has a control problem, and it's costing communities dearly. Billionaire donors get major tax breaks to park money in charitable funds. Today, there's over $2 trillion stockpiled in these accounts, growing to $18 trillion by 2050. Can you believe that? That's money that's just sitting there, often invested in for-profit investments instead of being put to work in communities. For years, I believed that centering donors was the best way to maximize the impact of every dollar donated. I even championed that system, and I was wrong. In Control, I take you inside these institutions to show how excessive donor control and the fake rules that protect it keep money from moving when it's needed most. The good news is we created this system, and we can change it. Pre-order your copy of Control, Why Big Giving Falls Short.
I'm so excited to have Nikki Marín Baena here from Somos NC to help us understand what's happening in North Carolina with working people and immigrants. And so with that, maybe I'll turn it to you, Nikki. Tell us, what are the key issues that you are seeing here in North Carolina, especially given that you all started in 2016 during one Trump administration. How does this moment feel different for you all?
Yeah, thank you. One of the ways that this moment feels different is that actually during the first Trump administration, we saw some big immigration operations, or what felt big at the time, like nothing like the scale of what we're seeing now. Mm-hmm. But when we saw those immigration operations in North Carolina, it felt very concentrated. Sometimes the way I talk about it is like, it felt like it was a war that only we were in. And now what feels really different is so many more people know what's going on. Unfortunately, part of that is because the scale of the immigration operations is so much larger.
Yeah. I wonder, one of the things that I've so admired about your work here is the way that you've started from a place about how people live their life. So I think about your Fourth Amendment workplace efforts, your worker organizing work. I wonder if you could share more about how your approach has changed in this context.
Yeah, when we started in the early time of the Trump administration, people would call us and we would go to and help them canvass their neighborhood and do a Know Your Rights workshop and help them set up a group chat for their neighborhood so that they could kind of communicate with each other. One of the things that we thought was really important was that people know who their neighbors are. One of the things that happens when there's a lot of this immigration activity is that people don't know who their neighbors are, and that's actually less safe. Yeah. And so that's a thing that's changed. But then in that time, that's been our practice basically over and over again, is kind of talking to people in neighborhoods and being like, well, what's going on now? Yeah. And those are, at some point in 2021, that's how we ended up doing a lot more wage theft work and workplace abuse work. And so from that, we were talking to workers after the 2024 election, and they were saying, well, I want to be safe in my workplace. Mm-hmm. And that was actually what helped us shape the Fourth Amendment Workplace Initiative, was our members saying, I need to feel like I'm safe at my job, and even my boss wants resources to help protect me at my job.
Can you say a little bit more about what the practice has been? So when you go to an employer or when you go to a city and you say, do you want to be a Fourth Amendment workplace, what has the practice been? What has the response been?
Yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. We've canvassed over 1,000 businesses across the state at this point, and over 200 have gotten the full training to become Fourth Amendment workplaces. And we have volunteers who go and talk to them, and they say, immigrants might be worried about coming to your business because there's so many warrantless arrests happening, and those are actually a constitutional violation. And sometimes, business owners will say, well, I don't have to worry about that. I don't employ immigrant workers. And it's like, yeah, but even your customers.
Yeah.
And also, even if it's not an immigration thing, these are they're coming in and searching your business without a warrant. Is that a thing that you want? And so part of what we've been trying to do in those conversations is help people see that everyone is impacted by these government overreaches. Mm-hmm. There have been businesses that say no, and then later, after someone is detained, or after we see a big operation like the one we saw here in North Carolina in November, they're like, okay, actually I do want the training. Yeah. So we've seen a lot of that.
Classic, it's not my problem until it's my problem.
Absolutely.
Right? That's what a lot of people are experiencing in this time.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. You hear this phrase all the time. If we could only see what happened before they executed someone, we'd understand. So for people that haven't been on the site of protest or, well, oftentimes it's not even protest, it's a deportation is underway, an apprehension is underway, and organizations like yours show up on the scene or are there before they arrive, I don't know how they know, and are there to help. Mm-hmm. And it's turning into these full-on tear gassy Gestapo-looking things. So what is happening for people who don't see the 30 minutes before someone is executed on a screen? We see only a minute, maybe 30 seconds. What is going on?
We saw a range of things when they were here in North Carolina. And
that was in November?
That was in November. Yeah. So there's a permanent ICE presence in North Carolina. The Charlotte field office is one of the biggest ones in the South. And so there's an amount of immigration detention that we see particularly at the Charlotte and Cary ICE offices when people are doing their check-ins that we see all the time. So that's a kind of daily occurrence. What was different in November was that Border Patrol agents showed up in North Carolina.
Okay.
And so those, and it's worth, I think, mentioning that those agents are trained differently. Mm-hmm. So ICE agents historically have been trained to do investigation. They have usually lists of people that they're looking for. These Border Patrol agents were showing up in a way that led us to believe that they were just trying to find whoever. And in Charlotte, it's not the same. North Carolina cities are really spread out. And so I think that they were having trouble finding places with high concentrations of people. Yeah. So they were just going to gas stations at 6 a.m. and trying to find construction workers. And so we didn't see that same kind of high tension moments. And when we were doing trainings for people who were documenting their presence, we told them, if you have more than 4 volunteers show up, start singing. And in our trainings, we would have people practice singing songs like This Little Light of Mine, where it's it's easy to remember the words to it. Partly because we were we think it's important that our volunteers be able to stay calm.
De-escalate, bring it down. Don't even show up with anything. Yeah.
I wonder how the level of violence, from your member experience, the level, how they've experienced state violence and how people are living.
Well, there's so many. When we started the organization and we started our ICE Watch program, really the main point of it to us was that people have access to the best information possible. And so we will post on social media when we verify ICE presence. And so that's why we train volunteers really to go up to law enforcement agents and be like, what law enforcement agency are you with? So that we could provide that information, because we know that people are taking that into account as they make all kinds of decisions. Am I going to go to work? Are my kids going to go to school? We saw something like 20, 30,000 kids in Mecklenburg County not go to school during the week that Border Patrol was here. That's a huge impact.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so people are making these decisions day to day, and especially after that week in November, it took people a long time to feel like, okay, I can go back to work. Okay, kids can go back to school in a normal way. And I'm sure that even in our membership, people are still really thinking about, well, how far do I drive? I'd rather send my kids to the supermarket if I can. Yeah. Things like that.
Yeah.
So I want you to stay with me on this one. I know I'm going to go way out here to come back in, but Carmen recently gave me my first copy of the Pulitzer Prize winning book last year, James. And for folks who don't know James, it's the story of Jim's story from Huckleberry Finn. And what really struck me about that book, and among many, many things, if you haven't read it, strong endorsement here, is the normalization of slavery and how people are living their lives with this really horrific system underway as if it's very normal. And you see it come out in the various ways that the author tells the story. And as I was reading it, I was thinking about the time we're in now and how, when I'm often driving, I'm from California, so when I'm driving through California in the Central Valley, you see workers working in the field, you see their setup there. It's very normal looking. And then now on top of it, the way the enforcement is going down now, the way people are talking about immigrants, the way people are being detained, disappeared, and otherwise, there's this ongoing effort to almost normalize it. This is just part of life. And I wonder, when I look out, what the Pulitzer Prize winning book will be in 250 years when people look back on this time. How do you respond to something like that? What do you think about when you think about the normalization that's going on in your role as an organization, constantly trying to remind us to, I believe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but trying to denormalize this and make sure that we're seeing it clearly for the repressive, violent, inhumane thing that it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about this a lot. My family's from Colombia, and so what has happened politically in Colombia in the last 20 years, it both shapes where I think we're headed, and I think it gives me some hope about how we get out of it. But I think in terms of the amount of everyday violence that people, started to just accept as well, that's just life.
Yeah.
And you just hear about it on the radio, and there's satire about it, and it becomes part of the culture. And then also that there was a turning point in Colombia where people started to say, actually, part of the problem is that we have accepted this, and we don't have to accept it. And also that the way to fix it is not by creating more counter violence.
Right.
And so,
those are all very important frames, for sure. So going back to the question I asked a little bit earlier, I was kind of getting at what are the rules and norms of a system that are forming here, and what are those fake rules, ones that are not legally mandated, that we can break to make for a better life for immigrants and for people who other people in our society.
I think there's one around immigration and how it works right now, which is, for example, here in North Carolina, we've been working with some employees at Duke who lost their temporary protective status. And Duke would probably like to sponsor them. There is not a way that Duke, the second largest employer in the state, a very powerful university and health system, there is no way in our current immigration system for even very powerful employers to sponsor their own employees. And so there are, I think, this is just one of the places where we have to get really creative about our immigration system. So that's one. And then in terms of, with regards to philanthropy, I think that we are in this moment where I feel very clear that the role of social movements and the role of organizations like ours that supports social movements is to take a lot of risk, and that's how things will change.
I agree.
And so how can philanthropy be more pro-risk?
I'll just say I think it's amazing that you have, so November was 1 year after the election. You had yourself, you were in ground zero, and you were effective. When prior to that, and maybe still during it, a lot of organizations and certainly foundations were trying to figure out how to hide, how to be less seen. So I look at organizations like yours, so thank you very much, as a true model for how all of us should respond in a time like this. We all were given advice by, experts on autocracy like Ann Applebaum and others who said, as it's starting to form, the more you give in, the more it takes hold. So we really admire organizations like yours that said, I see that, and I'm jumping in and I'm pushing back. So let me ask you the one question we always like to ask at the very end. What is the biggest fake rule that you want to see people break in this moment? Philanthropy, society, what is it for you right now that stands out? Not a law, but a rule that people follow that they don't need to follow for the betterment of society.
I think that we are taking it for granted that this like moment of big hatred that we're in is the way that it has to be. And I think that we don't have to accept that there's just widespread hatred, and we can find another way.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah, me neither.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on
What a
Break Fake
treat.
Rules. Thank you for tuning in to Break Fake Rules. Subscribe to the Stupski Foundation YouTube channel to watch videos of each episode. And join the conversation with me on LinkedIn.